Oh, leave it there. Yeah, well, you need to light. Okay.
Hello, everyone. I'm not at all disturbed by power outage because whenever I speak, people are always in the dark. Parsha says, "Tzedek, tzedek, tirdo." So naturally, we have to understand why the repetition. Why is it says tzedek, tzedek, tirdo? So the usual shot that is given by most of the Meforshim is that the pursuit of righteousness has to be done through righteous means. In other words, if you want to get tzedek, you cannot use means that are themselves reprehensible and evil in order to achieve it. We see that throughout human history, that there were always great goals and great revolutions to improve the lot of human beings. But since almost all of them ended up in prisons and dictatorships and violence, so the goal was never achieved. Because you cannot get tzedek through means that are themselves not tzedek. At first glance, that's impractical. So that's part of the problem. So they're Meforshim to say that tzedek, tzedek, tirdo, the repetition of the word tzedek is to tell us that as far as human society is concerned, it's an unattainable goal. It's something that we should pursue. We should try and get there. But we'll never get to 100% tzedek because of the imperfections of human beings themselves. The nature of human beings is anti-tzedek because of the Torah says, "Osikhu shochad." Stop Marov told me a long time ago, Miami Beach. He said the whole world is mishuchad. The whole world is corrupted. That's the nature of human society. It's because our own self-interests are so paramount, and we're unable to see a general picture. We see only our own individual, narrow occurrences. So therefore, we are corrupted, and therefore, tzedek never happens simply because you're chasing the mechanical rabbit. You're chasing something that you cannot achieve. The Meforshim say an interesting point in the Parsha of Yisro. So Moshe Rabbeinu's father-in-law comes to visit. Like all good fathers-in-law, he has good advice, which he is happy to share. So he sees that Moshe Rabbeinu sits in judgment Boker ad Erev. All day long, there's always a long list, a long line of people that want to see Moshe, that want advice from him, that want him to settle disputes. So Yisro says to him, what are you doing? This situation is unbearable. Noveltivo. For you will collapse, the people will. So therefore he gives him the advice, which Moshe accepts, that he will have a whole bureaucracy of officials under him that will help the people. So instead of Moshe alone, there'll be all sorts. There'll be the Department of Health, Department of Welfare, the Justice Department, all of the bureaucratic conditions that have always existed in human society. And Moshe adopts the plan, and Kaviyachol, the Rebbeinu Shalom, approves of it. That becomes the plan that exists within the Jewish people throughout the years in the desert. So the question arises, Moshe Rabbeinu was a smart man. He couldn't figure it out. What did he think? In studying Talmud, one of the basic questions that's always asked is, what was the Hava Amina? What did they think before? And after you've raised the questions, etc., it seems obvious that that's not the interpretation. But what did you think before when you thought it was? So what was Moshe Rabbeinu's Hava Amina here? What did he think before? He didn't realize that the system that such as his, where everything is dependent upon one person, is unworkable in the long run, is doomed to failure. So the Mefarshim say here a very, very brilliant insight. When you went to Moshe Rabbeinu, you got perfect advice. You got tzedek, tzedek. You had a din Torah in front of Moshe. Nobody ever felt that the decision was wrong. Moshe, so to speak, was above the usual suspicions and ideas of corruption. So therefore, Moshe said, if I'm the one that can give them the most perfect system, the one that has the least amount of misjudgments, of errors, I'm going to do so. You have now, to get an example from our mundane world, you have now in almost all professional sports something that's called the replay system. In other words, the referee or the umpire or the official made a decision, but maybe the decision was wrong. So you have a right to challenge the decision. And they, with all the technology and cameras and everything else that we have today, they're able to review the decision and determine whether it was right or wrong. This system is also imperfect, but it's an example of trying to achieve perfection. So that's what Moshe thought. Moshe thought that he could achieve tzedek tirdof. And even though it meant that he would have to be available 24/7, and even though it would be a burden, but it was worth it because the ultimate tzedek would come. Yisro told him it's impractical. Yisro, in effect, told him that the pursuit of perfect tzedek is not humanly possible. It's something that we pursue. It's something we hope to achieve. But like many other things in life, it's a little bit beyond us. It's a bridge too far. We're not able to achieve it. The Torah here explains why we're unable to achieve it. Because that's why the next pasuk is Lo Sikach Shocha. Because the nature of human beings is corrupt. Our self-interest always corrupts us. No matter how altruistic we think we may be. And that's what Hillel said. Mili. That's us. If I'm not for myself, who's going to be for me? So I have to be for myself. But the opposite is also true. If I'm only for myself, then of what value am I? What can I hope to achieve? So we see that the Torah does this in many areas, that it establishes a goal, a perfection, and lets us know that we may never achieve it. But that doesn't mean that we don't have to try somehow to pursue it, to come closer to the goal. And that all is included in the repetition of tzedek tirdof. That is our task, even though we may not always achieve it. Rabbi Chananya ben Akashi Omer Rotz HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'Zatos Yisrael v'Chir b'Lahem Torah Mitzvot Shenemar Adonai Chavei Siman Tzidko Yagdir Torah v'Yadir.